Hello, my dear brothers and the occasional sister joining us today. Today I've got 4 books I want to tell you about. It's not a book review, I just want to tell you about these 4 books. Also want to say a hearty thank you to many of you that commented on my last video, which was just a rave yesterday morning. I was talking about the shape of the world and what's going on, and it was just a rave, and I didn't actually edit it or even think. I thought I was dribbling on a bit, but actually just got a lot of really nice, warm-hearted, positive comments back. I got one comment from a guy saying, hold your lip about what you talk about your surgeon, Clay. We might need him one day. Let's get one thing clear. I am all for surgeons. I've been under the knife more times than I care to think, and it's saved my life. When it comes to an acute illness, bring on the surgeon every time. I'm not anti that, not at all. I love procedures if I've got an acute problem. But if I have a chronic problem, a chronic illness, then I want to deal with it with lifestyle. I want to deal with it with my sleep management, my pain management, getting lots of love and good stuff, managing my stress, obviously really good diet and exercise, and a few other things around that too. So just to clear that up. Right, 4 books. The first one, I'm just going to no particular order, is from Kim Swan, and I actually bought 2 of these because I just love Kim's work, and she's also a dear mate of mine, and I've got myself probably a quarter way through this. Actually, this one here I've got 2 because one for lending to people, and as you'd expect, it's got some real gems in it. So if you're a pig hunter, tear into it. You can buy it at Paper Plus. The next one is actually a book that Kim sent to me. I got this yesterday in the post. It's one that she's read, and it's written by a Kiwi bloke called Jimmy Hunt. There he goes there. Now, I haven't read it yet. I've only had a wee poke inside it, and I think it's quite good, and it would be good insight to some of you that suffer the black dog. Jim Hunt is a man who has spent most of his life doing ridiculous things for his own amusement. Things like building the country's biggest water slide, playing golf through the streets of downtown Auckland, and holding an alternative summer Olympics, including events such as sandcastles and buildings and frisbee golf. Frisbee golf's actually fun. But what none of his friends knew about Jimmy, excuse my writing, I'm doing the best I can. I'm a shit writer, I'll do it again. But what none of his friends knew was that Jimmy had been silently battling with depression. It was eating him alive from the inside, affecting his business, losing him friends, and slowly, painfully destroying his marriage. Disillusioned with the help and advice he received, he read that having a goal could help with depression. 5 minutes later, Jimmy set his goal and announced to the world he would travel the entire length of the Waikato River on an inflatable mattress. Loneliness, 21,000 people following his journey on Facebook, chancing upon a dead body in the river, unbridled kindness from strangers, physical pain, and crazy psychic predictions are just some of the strange tales from the river. And there goes our man there. He kind of looks like a cool guy, doesn't he? And it's called A Bit Mental. I have read a little bit, and I think this will be really good for anybody that suffers a black dog. And I just want to point out on a personal note that for me, not having a goal, I wouldn't get depressed, but if I didn't always have a goal, I think my motivation would come right down, and I would just fall into a state of being comfortable, and the sap wouldn't be flowing through my tree. I wouldn't have my quickening. I wouldn't have that. You've got to have well, I think for me, I personally have to have a goal. And if you're someone who's completely content and just happy chilling out all day, great. But for me, I've got to have a goal. Excuse me, I've got a visitor just come here, so I'll just pause for a moment. Right, my visitor's gone, so I'll carry on. So that would be worth a read, I reckon. The next one is Dogs and Boars. My mate Richard wrote this, and this has become a Bible in the house. Actually, what happened was I lent it to a young fella, it disappeared, it's actually come back, and Richard sent me another 2, so now I've actually got 3, so I've got 2 I can lend out. I won't tell you too much about it. My favourite, it always has been my favourite little story in it is Blood Brothers, but it's got all sorts of stuff. 3 mongrels in a row, quite a good one. If you're a pig hunter, you'll enjoy it, but even if you're not a pig hunter, you're going to enjoy it just for the sake that it's really I'm not going to say well written because Richard's not a writer. It's written that people like me can understand it. It's not all flowery and it's just straight to the point and it's funny. And he's got a real good, I don't know, it's a bloke's read. Having said that, I know a few women that are now picking it up and enjoying it too. So, yeah, there's that's my favourite yarn there, Blood Brothers. And he's got a few pictures in there, which is always good. We always like to see the odd big old gnarly boar and dog. George, the possum dog posing with the birthday boar. 151 pound. That's a good boar, eh? That's a bloody good boar. Just trying to find a picture of Richard here because he's not actually showing himself very much. He's got all his mates in here. I recognise a few people. He is in one of these photos, but he's got his daughter, but I don't see him. Oh, hold on, there he goes there, I think. That's him there. Not a great photo of the man. That's him there. Anyway, a great read and a great gift for somebody. If you want to get hold of it, the best way to get hold of that there is to go onto Facebook and just friend Richard Ware. And that's probably the best way, and just say, hey mate, can you get me a book by Richard Ware? So just send him a Facebook request and get that one there, and you'll bloody enjoy it. The last book is for anybody who has cardiovascular disease, anybody who's got atherosclerosis, angina, high blood pressure, anybody who wants to get rid of their doctor, get rid of their pills. And I'm not suggesting that now for a minute, but after you read this book and done what this book says if you do it, say, for a year and a half, then you could maybe talk about it with your doctor and then do that. This book has stopped many people from going through invasive medical procedures that were supposed to have, and it's actually, quite frankly, saved their lives, me being one of them. So yeah, if you have artery disease, like particularly coronary artery disease, you really need to read this book, and it's by Dr. Carvel B. Esselstyn, which is Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. And it's not a mainstream media thing you'll find, but it's because most mainstream media outlets, they won't publish stuff like this because it goes against, again, the narrative. But really is a good book. So that's my 4 books. That one there's if you've got heart disease or you don't want to get heart disease. That one there is just a good bloody Kiwi book by Richard Ware on pig hunting. And this one here by Jimmy Hunt, which is going to be interesting for me to read, and I'm also going to lend that out. And then, of course, my dear mate Kim Swan. And I want to thank Kim for sending me that. Thank you very much, Kim. I'm going to see Kim in another couple of weeks, hopefully. We're going to go and stay with her and hunt with Kev, who's got a blog. Anyway, moving along, there's just been a development with what's going on in the big world of pharmaceutical companies and government mandates and everything, and that is that there's been the first court case in the UK for a UK firm. I think AstraZeneca's a UK company, I believe. Might not be right there, but that's it's a landmark court case because basically the governments gave the giant pharmaceutical companies indemnity if anything went wrong to people that were vaccine injured, or in this court case I think it's one person who lost their life and somebody who's been maimed for life. But of course this is going on a massive scale. It's about 1 in 800, depending on what pharmaceutical intervention it is. And I think some are higher, some are lower. This one, the particular vaccine has been deemed as grossly overstated what its efficacy was, and a lot of countries pulled it out because of blood clots. Pretty much blood clots was the main one. What it does is it sets a precedent for all of the other people, the people that now in New Zealand and Australia and Canada and in America, every country that uses this therapeutic gene therapy. What it does, it sets a bar, because for those that have suffered, it now it's something as a reference. And I think the way that it's going to go forward with this is be through the Consumers Act, because the Consumers Act gives us protection for anything that we buy or that we have, or in the case of our government buying, maybe if it's a vaccine, and that will be the way through to get around the indemnity. ultimately, though, it'll be the government in each country that's footing the bill Isn't it crazy? The government will end up paying for it, which is you and me, our tax dollars. Yet the companies that produce it, that made all the profits, they got off scot-free because of the way it was set up and how that was all done, which is it's pretty shit, isn't it? You would think that, I mean, one of the biggest court cases, not the biggest, but one of the biggest was Pfizer, was a few years back, and I think it was a $3 billion settlement for a lot of damage that was done, and that's cool because they're making billions, so they should foot the bill. It shouldn't be us as a taxpayer, but that's probably a conversation for another day, and someone could go into depth more about it than me. But I'm glad to see that is actually going ahead. I am really sorry for the people that had to suffer to do it, and this will be good for all the other people that have now been marginalised, and it will also be good for the people that have been marginalised, that have said, I don't think this is such a good idea, and those that have lost their jobs, those that have been criticised, those that have been separated from their families, those that have felt the polarising effect in their workplace or amongst their mates or on social media or anywhere, and the division that's gone on through this because you thought for yourself, you were a critical thinker and thought something else. It will also be, you'll be sort of cleared of that too, because it will start to actually be proof on the table that you actually in fact were right, and you had a good reason to believe what you're believing. I'm not saying everything's bad. I'm just saying that I think for the state of my parents in their 80s, my dad, I think that the vaccine was good. I think it actually, for him, he got his jab, had really high immunity against that. He got COVID, and he never got sick. He said, no, it's not like nothing. And let's remember that there's so many different strains of it. You had the first variant, which probably would have killed my dad. The second one, which was the Delta one, which I think is the one my dad got, which probably would have knocked him home for a 6-2. And then we had Omicron, and then different variants of that. And that was a blessing to humanity, because it just, for the best part, didn't do any real serious damage. Still in some folk, but overall it didn't. And then there's those of us that have been very proactive with the whole thing from the beginning, at making sure that we've had good nutrition and looking after ourselves, and have been lucky that our immune systems have, when we've got it, it hasn't affected us at all as well. And then there's those of us who have been really unfortunate that have been hammered by COVID. So it's a real thing, and I'm not minimalising that, but I think when these drug companies are free to make a massive profit at the cost of everybody else, and then us as a taxpayer got to pick up the bill, that just doesn't sit right, does it? I mean, if you think about yourself and your job, I mean, let's say you're a painter, for instance. I only say it today because I've been painting, and I fucking hate painting in the wind. I've been outside in the wind all day. I love painting, but in the wind, horrible. Imagine you're a painter, and then you completely screw up the whole job, and it's a $20,000 job, and the person comes to you and says, hey, you've cocked that up. You can't say, oh yeah, well, I'm sorry, but the government will pick up that. You go to the Consumers Act, and because I've got an indemnity, see this, I've got this piece of paper that the government signed, everything that I paint, if it turns out like shit, I'm covered. No such thing is there. You and I, we have to be responsible for our fuck-ups. We've got to pay the price for anything, for all our fuck-ups. I've got another visitor. Hold that thought for a minute. Check it out. Radishes. Oh. So, the last pig I got, the last pig that I caught, I gave all the meat away, because I give all my meat away. And my mate's got a garden over here, and when I have competitions with growing stuff, he grows way better leeks than me, and he knows that radishes are one of my favourite vegetables, always have been. And I said, I can never really grow those radishes like they are in the shops. He said, I can. But he won't tell me what he's putting in the ground. He won't tell me what it is. So I want to grow some really big radishes, but they are monsters anyway. So I gave him a leg of pork, and he's given me a whole bunch of those, which I'm chewing. Now, do you have smoothies, guys? Changing the topic. Smoothies can be really, really good for you, or they can be really bad for you. I'll tell you why. So here's where they're really good for you. If you want to get your micronutrients and your macronutrients, the really, really good stuff that you just can't pull out of food normally. Say, for instance, you got your smoothie and you put in some kale and some bok choy, some silver beet, and maybe a bit of ginger, and you just right down. All of those cellulose get broken into tiny, everything's really, really tiny, and it goes straight in your bloodstream, and you get that really boost of nitric oxide, that boost of potassium, that boost of manganese, that boost of magnesium, all that stuff. It will fuel you up. Here's the thing though, a lot of us, me being guilty of it too, until I just read a paper this morning, will throw a banana in there to try to sweeten it up a little bit. But the banana makes everything, all that good stuff, you just don't take it on to, you get about 20% and you lose about 80%, because what the banana does is, well, I'd have to share the paper with you because it's science, but let's just say don't stick a banana in your smoothie. The other reason that you shouldn't have a banana in your smoothie, and I know this, is of course you destroy the natural fiber of the banana, and what it does is it's like fructose, just bang, your insulin goes through the roof, you spike insulin, and it's just like having pure sugar. It's actually worse than pure sugar, it's fructose, and so that's a no-no. So it depends on the package it comes in. But I was really like, when I heard this, I thought, shit, all of those smoothies I've had with particularly kale, because I like to get a lot of nitric oxide, no more bananas going in there for me. I think it's going to be a pretty boring smoothie, but there are some fruits you can get away with, like berries, that will be okay, which don't do that. But ideally you want to have minimal amount of sugar in there. So, a bit of bad news if you've been having a smoothie with a banana every day. If you enjoy the taste of it, you don't care about getting diabetes type 2 or any of those other diseases that from spiking insulin, carry on with it, but actually it's not good for you. That's just the reality. That's why the diet's called a whole food diet, because when you start taking these foods and you start fucking them up by really churning them, there are types of whole foods that you can do. Like for an example, you can take a grain. If you want to make, say, a bread, you take your grain, you get it on the day, you mill it on the day, and you put it into your sourdough mix on the day, and then you grow it and ferment it, because it's a fermenting process that helps to get rid of the gluten and a lot of the shit. And then you bake your bread in the oven. You're still holding the goodness, and there's no oxidation going on of your seed because it's been ground on the day. It's not sitting in a packet on a shelf like flour does for weeks or months on end, oxidating. So you get none of the oxidative stress, but you get all the goodness, like all the omega-3, the EPA, the DHA, all of the really healthy stuff that's in there. You bake it in your oven, then you stick it onto your freezer, or into your freezer, freezing it, and then you take it out and you slice it out, and then you make it a toast. What that does is it makes the resistant starch like really strong, so when you eat it, it doesn't spike insulin anywhere near as much, and probably about as much as this radish would, because it's been through that process. Something to think about. They are good in size, but you know what? And if he's listening to this right now, I prefer littler ones that are hotter, because it's just not hot enough. Still good though. If you're growing radishes, are you getting big ones like this too? And if so, what's your trick? Because I don't know what it is. Is it nitrogen? What are you putting in the soil? And somebody also mentioned that my corns were too far apart, and I need to have it so the tassels touch each other. What's all that about? Can someone go into that in a bit more depth? Anyway, brothers, that's my video today. Just a bit of a ramble. Hope you're going okay. And remember, if you're in a bad place, if you're someone who's watching this right now who's struggling with shit, as we all do from time to time, remember that it will pass. As Sir Winston Churchill said, when you're going through hell, just keep on going. And sooner or later, you pop out the other end. And if you're having really bad days, like a lot of bad days, every day is the same, think of it like this. 2 steps forward, going in the right direction, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And eventually one day, before you know it, it'll just be 2 steps forward, 2 steps forward, and the sun will shine again. because things always change. There's always going to be change. And if you're really in a dark place, call a brother and tell him. I know it's the hardest thing to do when you're in a dark place. You don't want to talk to anybody. And if you know somebody who's in a really dark place and you're worried or concerned about them, don't hesitate to get a psych team involved or somebody that's in the medical profession that can help them. Because the worst thing that can happen is you know they're in a bad place and then you hear something terrible's happened. Don't pull away from people when they're mentally sick. I know it happens. I see that when people, even physically sick, they're no fun to be around, they're difficult, they bring you down, I get that. But you're well, so you've got a responsibility to step up and say, hey mate, we're going to get you sorted, and be proactive. Really, really important. I think the worst thing that could happen in your life is you get to the end of your life and you look back and you think about the times you didn't make a difference when you could have. We've only got one bash at it, so make it good. We're here for a good time, not a long time, so let's make a good time for our brothers as much as ourselves too. Go steady, and I'll see you in the next Bro Check Club video. See you later. I'm going to enjoy these. Good chopping and trying. See ya.